Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our briefing on the wildfire season and wildfire preparedness, as well as our heat-related events that have been going on over the last couple of weeks. My name is Joe Tyler. I'm the Director and Fire Chief at CAL FIRE. Today, we're at our CAL FIRE Aviation Management Unit, which is the hub of our aviation fleet and home of the McClellan Air Tanker Base. And as we have said earlier in this year, we are not just in a fire season, but we are in a fire year. The California Fire Service as a whole has responded to more than 3,500 wildland fires that have burned more than 207,000 acres so far this year. The same time last year, we were down 538 fires, and we have burned 197,000 more acres this year than we did last year. In the last 24 hours across the state, there have been 44 new wildland fires, and between July 4th and July 5th, 227 additional wildland fires. It's important to note that 95% of all wildfires are human-caused, and they are currently igniting in light, flashy, cured grasses that are spreading to the brush and timber. And our winds and the recent heat wave have exacerbated the issue, consuming thousands of acres. So we need to be extra cautious in these hot, dry, and windy conditions because they often prompt fire weather watches and red flag warnings. They are issued by your meteorologists and the National Weather Service, and it's a signal for everyone to be extra vigilant with activities such as mowing, towing, welding, shooting, and other activities that can create a spark. Inevitably, new wildland fires will start, and CAL FIRE, Cal OES, and our partners at the local, state, federal, and tribal level are here to respond. CAL FIRE and Cal OES and our partners are fully staffed with our fire engines, hand crews, bulldozers, air tankers, and our helicopters. Behind us are our Black Hawk helicopters that have been introduced and are available to fly at night when needed. And in addition, the administration has funded 20 additional exclusive use, privately owned firefighting helicopters and 4 fixed-wing aircraft to assist our fleet across the state. Utilizing over 1,100 Alert California cameras on mountaintops, repeater sites, we are able to watch much of California using artificial intelligence to report to the 911 call centers of new fires that are starting, sometimes before the first 911 caller. And related to fuels work, fuels reduction, vegetation management across California, our partners are making efforts to improve forest health and make our forests more resilient. For the 4th year in a row, we intend at CAL FIRE to meet and exceed our 100,000 acre target. And our partnerships are so important. The partnerships that I've already talked about, the partnerships with you, but the partnerships with the people of California are most important. And it's most important because you can help us reduce the risks of associated hazards related to wildfires. So as I said in Wildfire Preparedness Week, and I will say now, this is my plea to you. Please create a wildfire action plan that addresses escape routes, meeting points, animal arrangements, and a communications plan with your family. Listen to the guidance of law enforcement and our firefighters for evacuation warnings and orders. Prepare your home to defend from an advancing wildfire, and prepare your home by home hardening and utilizing defensible space. I ask that you recognize that lawnmowers, weed eaters, chainsaws, grinders, welders, tractors, and trimmers can all spark wildfires. If not properly maintained, they need to be used in a way that was intended, not a way that was unintended, and you need to make sure that the spark arresters are clean and maintained. When mowing, mow before 10 o'clock in the morning. Mow when the humidities are high, as it dries out throughout the day. And for our motorists on our roadways and our highways, make sure that you are doing your part as well. Ensure that your chains are secure, that you're removing dragging parts, carrying a fire extinguisher, and maintaining your braking systems. I ask that the people of California help your neighbor. and to follow social media for active alerts and new warnings. You can also follow wildfire incident information that has been expanded upon by going to fire.ca.gov, where it's constantly updated with evacuation information, perimeters, resource tracking of our aircraft. Just in the last week alone, it brought 3.3 million visits to the website and 751,000 new viewers for the first time. For additional information to be prepared for wildfires, you can go to fire.ca.gov or readyforwildfire.org. In addition, you can go to ready.ca.gov. Lastly, we have firefighters standing behind us, and I want to thank the women and men of our public safety offices who are out there fighting fires and evacuating the public on a day-to-day basis. And with that, I'm honored to introduce and invite up California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Director Nancy Ward.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. I'm Nancy Ward, Director, Cal OES. In addition to the wildfires that Chief Tyler just spoke about, California continues to endure a prolonged heat event with much of the state in high risk or extreme risk for heat. While heat brings an elevated fire risk, it also brings threats to human, especially given the higher temperatures at night that have which don't bring down the temperatures in the overnight hours. At the governor's direction, Cal OES activated the Extreme Temperature Response Plan, as well as the State Operations Center. The center is the hub of state coordination that includes state partners such as CAL FIRE and others to work around the clock to anticipate and respond to community impacts and from the extreme heat and the wildfires together. As multiple fires continue to burn across the state, Cal OES has pre-positioned and mobilized equipment and a personnel support of CAL FIRE and the local fire agencies throughout the state through our Fire and Rescue Mutual Aid System. The system is made up of more than 270 engines, staffed by over 150 local government and tribal fire agencies. In addition, Governor Newsom secured fire management assistance grants for both the Thompson and the French fires. These declarations provide state and local fire agency financial resources to help them with their fire response activities in these devastating fires. During the time of extreme fire behavior and heat, it's critical that Californians remain vigilant and heed the instructions of their emergency officials and first responders. As Chief Tyler mentioned, ready.gov can be used to sign up for alert and warnings for your county. Check in with coworkers if you work outside. Also check in with elder adults who might be isolated. Stay hydrated and take frequent breaks. Find a cooling center in your community to cool down if necessary. Many communities are providing free transportation to these centers. Pack a to-go bag in case you have to be evacuated with the essential items for each of your members and also your pets. Learn multiple ways in and out of your neighborhood in case you are asked to evacuate, and please heed the instructions from emergency officials if you are asked to evacuate. Thank you for doing your part to stay safe and be prepared. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Gustavo Ortiz, who is a Cal OES PIO, who is going to provide us some remarks in Spanish. Gustavo?
Thank you, Director Nancy Ward. My name is Gustavo Ortiz, PIO with Cal OES. Soy portavoz de la Oficina de Servicios de Emergencia del Gobernador de California. Además de los incendios forestales, California continúa enfrentando esta ola de calor que se ha extendido durante varios días. Y si bien el calor conlleva un elevado riesgo para generar más incendios forestales, también es un riesgo para la salud. Y estamos enfrentando días con temperaturas muy altas en la noche, cuando normalmente recibíamos pues un alivio. Por ello, por orden del gobernador Gavin Newsom, CalOES activó el Centro Estatal de Operaciones, de igual manera el plan de respuesta a temperaturas extremas, en donde autoridades locales y estatales coordinan los esfuerzos de respuesta, monitorean las condiciones del clima y de esa manera envían los recursos necesarios a todos los condados afectados por los incendios forestales y también por esta ola de calor. Y mientras continúan ardiendo múltiples incendios en todo el estado, CalOES ha preposicionado y movilizado equipos, personal de apoyo a Wildfire y otras agencias para apoyar a agencias de bomberos locales a través del sistema de ayuda mutua de bomberos y rescate, un sistema que cuenta con un total de 270 camiones de bomberos atendidos por más de 150 agencias de bomberos tribales y de gobiernos locales. Además, el gobernador obtuvo declaraciones de subvención de asistencia para el manejo de incendios a través de la Agencia Federal para el Manejo de Emergencias, FEMA, por sus siglas en inglés, para enfrentar los incendios Thompson en el condado de Butte y French. Estas declaraciones proporcionan a las agencias estatales y locales recursos financieros importantes para seguir luchando y cubrir los gastos que genera esta lucha contra los incendios. Durante esta época de calor e incendios forestales extremos, es fundamental que todos los californianos sepan qué hacer antes, durante y después de una emergencia, que estén preparados y que tengan todos los recursos necesarios. Es por ello que les pedimos que visiten la página de ready.ca.gov para registrarse y recibir alertas de emergencia en el condado en el que viven. De igual manera que estén pendientes de todos sus compañeros de trabajo, si laboran al aire libre, que les recuerden que tomen mucha agua y que tomen descansos periódicamente. También estén pendientes de vecinos, de personas de la tercera edad, de sus niños, porque puedan requerir ayuda extra. Manténgase hidratado y descanse periódicamente si están laborando al aire libre. Encuentre un centro de enfriamiento. En nuestra página de news.ca.gov usted va a encontrar toda la información de los centros de enfriamiento que han sido habilitados en cada uno de los condados a lo largo del estado. De esa manera, todos aquellos que no cuentan con aire acondicionado podrán enfrentar las altas temperaturas. De igual manera, prepare ese kit de emergencia que es importante los 365 días del año aquí en California, en este caso, para enfrentar los incendios forestales. En ese kit tiene que incluir todo lo que sea necesario para los integrantes de su familia. Y establezca las rutas de evacuación de su casa y también del vecindario. Recuerde que no es el único que va a salir de casa, que todo el vecindario va a enfrentar la misma emergencia y es por ello que deben saber exactamente qué hacer, a dónde ir y con quién comunicarse. Si requieren más información, pueden visitar nuestra página de news.caloes.ca.gov. Gracias por hacer su parte, mantenerse seguro y formar parte de la respuesta a esta emergencia. Es ahora el honor de presentar al gobernador de California, Gavin Newsom. It's my honor to introduce now the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you, Director, and thanks for the Chief and all of you for being here. It's an opportunity to familiarize all of you with something we're deeply familiar with, and that's the equipment we have assembled here today that represents the largest fleet of its type anywhere in the world, the largest fire suppression fleet in the world under the jurisdiction of CAL FIRE, under the jurisdiction of the state of California. It's an opportunity not only to highlight the investments we've made, it's also an opportunity to highlight the extraordinary people that operate this equipment, that every single day are doing the good and hard work that's necessary to keep people safe and address the challenges of our time. So I want to thank all the men and women of CAL FIRE, all the extraordinary work they're doing every single day, to members of the National Guard that are out there preparing and have been preparing for wildfire season, folks out there in the Conservation Corps, and many others that have been out doing the work that needs to be done to prepare for this season. As the Chief said, we are already experiencing a disproportionately high number of acres burned. Not fires started. What the Chief just said, the 3,500 or so fire starts so far this year actually is a little bit below the 5-year average. What's significantly higher is the number of acres burned. In fact, you look over the last 5 years, we've averaged about 3,800 fires by this time in the fire season, 3,500, as he noted, plus or minus this year. The average acres burned has been a little below 40,000 when you look at that 5-year average, over 200,000 this year. So we're seeing, unsurprisingly, predictably, because of the rains, those late rains in particular, a lot of grasses turning into brush fires. So these tend to burn out but move pretty quickly. That said, lightning is not our friend. We're anticipating some lightning strikes this weekend up in the Sierras. We saw the abnormality of lightning strikes in the Central Valley, particularly around Fresno, earlier in the season than we're typically seeing them. There's nothing, again, typical. Hots, we say it all the time, are getting a lot hotter, experiencing unprecedented record heat. These heat domes over the entire western United States, over and over and over and over and over again, record-breaking temperatures, record-breaking experiences, not just in California, across this country and around the rest of the world. With respect to the troglodytes out there, climate change is real. Mother Nature, she bats last, bats 1,000. She's chemistry, biology, and physics. And those realities, those extremes, are here, present every day in the great state of California. If you don't believe in science, you have to believe your own eyes, the lived experience all of us have out here in the western United States, for that matter, around all around the globe. Places, lifestyles, traditions, quite literally, communities being wiped off the map in Paradise, California, and Grizzly Flats, and Greenville, California. And this is a serious, sober time to be in positions of influence, positions of public service, and we're grateful, again, for everyone that's doing our best to meet this moment, not only address reaction and react to these challenges, but also to proactively shape an agenda to address the underlying issue in the first place, and that's the burning of fossil fuels, the burning of oil and gas. It's not complicated. And so we take this mission very seriously, but the mission, again, we wanted to highlight today is the mission that you hear behind me, with the helicopters that are moving, and this remarkable investment of equipment, unprecedented in California's history, that is up to the task. $2.6 billion was preserved in the budget as it relates to our commitment to address forest management, to address the needs to do more to actively manage our forests, to address the issues around dispensable spaces. As the chief said, we're hitting our targets as it relates to our active vegetation management. We have a lot more work to do there. I can't make up for the last 50 years. But over the last few years, we've been doing more than ever in partnership with an administration that's done more than ever on these issues. I had the privilege, the day before I was here, I flew out to the White House. As Nancy said, we were able to secure the support from the White House without any politics, without any hesitation, to support our emergency requests. In the past, I'll remind you, that was not so easy. We had to make phone calls. We waited days and days. There was threats that we weren't going to provide support for the people of this great state. That's not the case today. There's a state of mind as it relates to the White House and their support to be here for the American people, regardless if they're in California or Oklahoma. And so I want to thank President Biden for his swiftness and support. It was nice to be at the White House to discuss this wildfire season. It was top of mind, not just for me, but other governors, where I had a chance to dialogue about their experiences, not just this year, but over the course of the last many years. I will note, though, the last 2 years we've seen below average number of starts and fires, not starts, but fire acres burned. But this year portends some more challenges. So I hope people took notes, take seriously the opportunity to prepare themselves, the responsibility I think all of us have to do more to protect our families, to be there for each other and our communities. That ready.ca.org site, ready.ca, is a great site. It's a new tool. We announced this a few months ago, aggregated tool that highlights new technologies and new opportunities to keep you safe on the basis of a lot of the investments we've made. Just briefly on that. The chief mentioned the number of alert fire cameras. These are AI-assisted cameras, best in class, next generation. Got hundreds and hundreds of these that we've procured and we put all over the state of California. We didn't have this a few years ago. the real-time management, the ability now as it relates to projections. Technosilva, a remarkable company that has advanced opportunities to really sort of understand fire behavior in real time. The work we're doing with the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, the work we're doing with satellite technology and access that we have over the last few years that we've never had in the past. These Nighthawks, the fact that they're Nighthawks, we call them Firehawks, allow us nighttime fire suppression. We've never had that in the past. You'll see the C-130 behind me. Thank you to the President of the United States, Joe Biden. For years and years and years, we had to battle with the previous administration to get these C-130s. We couldn't get them. We finally had them shipped out here, all 7 of them. 170% complete. It will be under the CAL FIRE brand very shortly. We'll have 5 more up next year, and all 7 will be operationalized proudly under the CAL FIRE brand you see behind me early in 2026. Again, I want to thank the administration for their support of these essential assets. In addition, as was noted by the chief, we've also procured exclusive use contracts. By the way, full disclosure, this is a bit, it's a competitive process. Some of the other governors in other states are very mindful of California's ability to scale those investments, to secure some of those resources. But I want everyone to know we support our neighbors with mutual aid. We support our neighbors. We've done that consistently in Texas over the last few months. And the mutual aid system, it's a way of just expressing this, is best in class. There's no mutual aid system in the country, I would argue around the world, as efficient, effective, and coordinated as the state of California. And you see that with these wildfires. You see folks, men and women down in Riverside that make their way up to Northern California and the Oregon border, helping one another out. You see Oregon firefighters down in Southern California. You see folks from around the globe, from Israel to Australia, also supporting our mutual aid program. But I want to note we've also provided more resources for our local mutual aids by providing more resources, specifically equipment and trucks like the one you see behind us, putting the brand of the local municipalities, supporting that through the funds coming from the state of California. Forgive me for being so long-winded. I can go on for another 20 minutes about FIRUS. I can go on about so many of the other programs that are operationalized. I just want to thank Joe and his team. I want to thank Nancy as I conclude for her work. As you may know, California has been a leader as it relates to heat illness. We will be the first in the nation, I believe, stress test that, and forgive me, any state that may be ahead, but it's a point of pride if they are. We have a heat index that we have been organizing around. It will be in effect in January, not in effect right now, for one reason. We want to get it right. HHS, EPA, not just Cal OES, bringing together all these disciplines, all these agencies to create a heat index that's easily digestible, easily understood, that will aid and abet our efforts to advance some of the work that she's been doing at our SOC, which is our State Operations Center, and the work we're doing to operationalize our heat illness plans that went into effect a few weeks back in anticipation of the heat dome and the extreme heat that we'll continue to experience. We're looking forward to some modestly cooler temperatures in the aggregate. None of us live in the aggregate, so I'm mindful of that. But in the aggregate, Friday, Saturday, and we're doing our best to keep people safe. And we have to all do our best. Keep hydrated, stay in the shade, use your common sense over the course of the next few days as we work our way through this. One final point of emphasis. I just want to thank the legislature. We went through a process this year. We not only balanced this year's budget, but we balanced next year's budget, but we didn't do it on the back of these investments. And I want to give you a proof point of that. When I got here, I was elected in late 2018, was there with the former president in Paradise, California, talking about the ravages of climate change and the impact that had and the lives that were lost and the devastation. We had about 6,700 CAL FIRE personnel. In July of 2018, it was marked about 6,700. Today, we have 9,700 CAL FIRE personnel. I want to thank the legislature for their support. And we just approved a plan in our 2-year budget that over the next 5 years, we're committing an additional 2,400 personnel to CAL FIRE. That's making up for issues around CDCR. It's allowing us to augment our efforts, and it allowed us to do, and this is a long-winded point of gratitude to the legislature, to maintain my commitment that I made, but it can't be mine alone. It had to be our commitment. It had to be ratified and supported by the legislature as it relates to the quality of life, the wellness of members of CAL FIRE. And we were able to reduce the work week and the stresses on not only members of CAL FIRE, but their families as well. And we were able to hold the line on that 66 hours. That was not anticipated in this budget process, but they held the line, and I just want to congratulate them for that as well. So thank you all for coming out, taking this moment seriously. More evidence do we need than the extreme heat and all of these, relatively larger fires than we've experienced the last 5 years. With that, we're all here to answer any questions.
Governor Jeannie Newman with ABC 10. As you've mentioned, we've experienced a record-breaking heat, especially last week. We even had a heat-related death in Sacramento County. Yeah. What do you have to say to people who feel like this press conference is coming a little too late, given that you left the state last week to be a part of President Biden's campaign?
Well, we've been at this. We've moved forward with the State Operations Center. We moved forward with our well-established heat illness protection plan. I initiated that as governor. We've been monitoring every morning, monitoring what's going on here in the state of California. We provided the investments in a budget deal that I just got done with the legislature just a few days ago. As I noted, I was just here 5-6 days ago, right before we went out to the White House to get the emergency declaration signed and to get the kind of support that we anticipate we'll need moving forward to the rest of the year. So, look, this is tough business. There's a lot going on in the world we're living in, and I'm proud of the work the state has done.
Hi, Governor. A recent report found that Black Californians, Latinos, and Native Americans die at disproportionate rates from extreme heat. So what specific things is your administration doing to protect these vulnerable populations? Well,
it's laid out in detail in the plan. One of the things we're prideful of in the state of California is a framework around cultural competency. It's a bottom-up, not top-down plan. It's based upon a lot of the lessons we've learned through a series of challenges, not least of which the challenges of the pandemic. We established a program you may be very familiar with, Listos, which is a big part of our ongoing investments as it relates to reaching out to vulnerable and diverse communities across the state, knocking on doors, going door to door to provide support, to amplify a volunteer workforce, which is now larger than the Peace Corps. The cooling centers we've opened with a socioeconomic framework and concern. I'll have Nancy amplify because you deserve an even more granular response to that question. But I'm very mindful. We are a majority-minority state of the responsibility we have to do more, particularly in rural parts of the state that are underserved, underrepresented, and it's a big part of the core values that we try to advance. But again, just as it relates to the previous question, we have a lot more work to do in dealing with these unprecedented extreme times. But I will say the unprecedented work that has been done is a point of pride, and Nancy deserves so much credit, so I'll ask her to amplify a response as well.
Governor, you did a great job with the Listos program, but as well as once the State Operations Center is activated, we also activate our Priority Populations Task Force, which basically works through our operational areas, which are our county emergency management agencies, to identify those communities where we need to reach out to their CBOs, to all of their recreational areas, making sure that their cooling centers have all the resources that they need across the state. So we are out there in full force, making sure that we're trying to hit every community that has vulnerable populations that may not heed some of the warnings that we blast through the media. And so they are out there in full force with each of the communities, especially targeting those areas right now that have the largest wildfires.
Thank you. And then, Governor, just a non-heat related question for you. Where do you currently stand on policies that would require the schools, teachers and counselors to notify their parents if their kids are transgender? There's currently a bill on your desk that would prohibit teachers from doing so. Where do you stand on this?
Well, I got 60 bills. That's one of them, and I'll let you know very shortly, and we'll be reviewing that with my team and staff the details of that bill. I've been following that. I'm well aware of the LGBTQ caucus and their advocacy in that space. I haven't read the details of the bill yet, as is the case, as you know well, all too well. I try to familiarize myself with the nuances and details before I opine publicly, and I'll be doing just that this week with the team.
But on this issue, it's been an issue for more than a year, and you've thought about it for a while, so where do you stand on it?
I'm going to respectfully defer to the fact that I have a bill pending in front of me for my signature that could occur as early as today, as late as tomorrow or this week, and I'll have the opportunity to review the details of the bill. It's not a hypothetical any longer. It's a specific question you're asking, and it deserves a specific response on the basis of a specific understanding of each preposition, verb, and adjective in the bill.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Camille from Politico. So you have less fire starts this year than last year and more technology and equipment. So why are there more acres being burned and what, if anything, can be changed to prevent that?
Well, we have to address the underlying cause in the first place, and that's the heat, trapping gases. Got to address the issue of fossil fuels. We've got to hold polluters accountable. We've got to address the underlying issue fundamentally. That's a substantive answer. But you asked a specific about grass fires, or implied, and brush fires, and the late rains and how that's impacted. And we have an expert in the chief of CAL FIRE behind me who's eager to share his input and his experience with these particular conditions.
Thank you, Governor. Again, Joe Tyler, Director of CAL FIRE. So the snowpack, we see our reservoirs full. We see late rains that have grown our herbaceous fuels, our grasses, quickly. In some areas, you can find that they are still 4 to 5 feet tall. We find ourselves here recently that we had the high temperatures. Associated with the high temperatures, we had north and northwest and northeast winds that have pushed the fires that have been ignited to where we are today. Now, we should be so grateful that because of these grass fires and because of the technology and the resources that we have, that though the acres are big, the fatalities at this point are 0. The structures damaged or destroyed are low. It is largely because of the heat, the drying of the fuels, and the winds that have been associated with it that this vegetation has burned so rapidly.
I have an additional policy question, but it's still related to fires. So Senator Scott Wiener recently introduced a bill that he said he's negotiated with the governor and with CAL FIRE to change the system of fire maps and to give the CAL FIRE more, or the state fire marshal more regulatory authority. I want to know what you're trying to achieve with this and what you say to people who say that it won't solve any insurance problems and it will put more people in the line of danger because it could promote more development in fire-prone areas.
So the proposal, first and foremost, is to decrease confusion. So here we are. In 2007, we found ourselves introducing wildfire hazard severity maps, and we had 3 zones: very high fire hazard severity, and moderate. In the high fire hazard severity and the very high fire hazard severity zones, building chapter 7A building codes required them to build and provide home hardening and defensible space at the same level. It is very confusing when you have fire hazard severity zones that are recognizing the hazards associated and the hazards that we can reduce to protect your home, protect your property, versus the risks associated with that becomes much more confusing. So the goal of wildfire mitigation areas is really to reduce from 3 zones to 2 and to limit the ability for people to use their discretion based on which of the 3 zones you're in as to what levels of housing you may or may not allow.
Hi, Governor. Trung Nguyen with the AP. Last week, you decided to abandon a plan that would have put a crime focus initiative on the ballot to compete with what's now Prop 36. Are you planning to actively campaign against Prop 36, or how are you planning to fight this violation?
Well, I think it's a bad initiative. I think it's misleading. They do it under the auspices of a retail framework. It's interesting they didn't even include any changes to the retail theft threshold, which has gotten so much attention. And why didn't they? Because it's the 10th toughest in America. I know that's widely reported. It's really a drug policy reform that brings us back decades. Very concerned about that. I hope people take a close look at what they're proposing. So I won't be supporting it. I don't think that's the best way to address this issue on the ballot, locking things in. But I hope all of us are held to some accountability, those that support it, good people that support it, to this question. They need to answer it. How are you going to pay for it? Where are the billions of dollars going to come from? What programs? Programs like this, supporting our wildfire suppression strategies, work we're going to do to address the issues of extreme heat, the challenges we have across the spectrum of issues. Where is the money going to come from? That's not my word. No, don't take my word for it. It's not a rhetorical question. The LAO put out the costs were extraordinary over the course of the next decade or so. I don't think it's the right approach to lock in these things as they have. So yes, to your question specifically, I'll be campaigning against it, but I'm also not naive. There's a lot to do. It's a lot of issues that are on the ballot, a lot of challenges we face. But I hope the people of the state of California will have the opportunity to consider this, consider the alternative pathway that the legislature has taken, the work that we've done with a package of actual retail theft bills that will be landing on my desk very shortly, the work that we've done since 2019, $1.1 billion to invest in vertical prosecution and new technology and to provide more staffing to investigations. And most every county, they've taken advantage of those grants. The task forces that we put together years and years ago to address legitimate issues of retail theft and the legitimate issues that are way outside the purview of Proposition 47, which is organized retail theft. And the legislature, to their credit, has an organized retail theft package that I look forward to signing. We've been working actively with them, as many as 12, 13 bills that are active as we speak. And I think that's a much better approach, and we'll continue our effort to march to address these issues, which again are legitimate in this state. But that initiative, Prop 36, is more of a drug policy reform that takes us back on drug policy as it relates to possession and will cost the taxpayers billions and billions of dollars over the next decade that will have a profound impact on programs across the state. I reject the premise that it's foundationally a retail bill. It's not. It's a lot more, and I will not be supporting it.
Hi, Governor. Sophia Bolide with the San Francisco Chronicle. Just to follow up on that a little bit, in terms of the measures that have made it on the ballot, what are going to be your priorities in terms of what you campaign for? Yeah. And how focused are you going to be on ballot measures in California races, given your involvement with the Biden campaign and the presidential race?
Well, I'm deeply involved in California races, actively involved. I hate the phrase, there's a lot of receipts to prove that. I've been involved in a lot of local races, a lot of congressional races for months and months and months. We've been out there fighting the good fight, so it's not just top-down White House, it's bottom-up. So we'll be active. We'll continue to be active in that space, and I'm very proud of the work we've done so far and the work that our candidates are doing at local races. As it relates to these initiatives, we're taking a good look. We got a lot of them off the ballot. My number one priority, full disclosure, transparency, was to get that big oil initiative off the ballot. That would have set us back as it relates to health and safety for vulnerable communities in the state. That was a big deal. We were able to get a number of other issues off the ballot as it relates to children's hospitals, financial literacy, compromises were made. So I'm very pleased with that. But there are a number of issues, as you know, that are remaining, not as many as prior, and we'll be taking a good look at all of them over the course of the next weeks and months. This is our annual, we do this every year, as we sort of dance for clarity right after the dust settles, and we'll figure out where we land. And I tend to be pretty vocal about my opinions, as you know, and anticipate being so as it relates to those remaining ballot initiatives.
And in terms of your decision last week to pull your alternative crime measure, we saw your statement. You said there wasn't enough time for amendments. Can you be more specific? What were the specific policy problems with that proposal, or was it more of a political decision in the end?
I'll tell you, I support. I think I was lieutenant governor. I was not popular with my Democratic colleagues supporting the 72-hour rule until last week. I thought, my gosh, I wish we had a little extra time, because we were running down in terms of getting that bill to print, and there were a few amendments we wanted to make. We just didn't have a willing partner on the other side, with respect. They may reject that, but I know that. And so there were some things that we thought we can do. I think the fentanyl issue is very real. As you know, I've been very vocal on that. We've more than doubled the National Guard. We have close to 400 National Guards, men and women, working on our counter drug efforts all across the state of California. I've significantly increased the number of National Guard at the border since I've become governor as it relates to fentanyl interdiction. Met with President Xi specifically on the issue of precursor chemicals related to fentanyl. It is a top priority for me. I felt it a huge mistake that a member of the legislature killed the Trank bill, the xylazine bill, forgive that, street name is Trank. That was a big mistake. So I'm very active in that respect, and that was a component part of what we were trying to achieve specific to your question. But there was some language on that where there was some modest adjustments that we couldn't make at the final analysis. So we're working with the legislature independently on a parallel track. Doesn't require going on the ballot to support an effort there that's targeted and specific, not the scattered shots that folks on the Prop Now 36 are trying to advance, which will bring us back to the 1980s as it relates to drug policy in this state. And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are. That's why I plead with them. Take a look at the details of Prop 36 and ask yourself, where's the money going to come from? How are we going to pay for this? And what's the price of modest possession of someone now that will be incarcerated in the state penitentiary at a huge cost, with the kind of outcomes that we know all too well are not commensurate with that kind of investment.
To clarify, so the willing partner, is that in the legislature that you didn't? Or?
Legislature was next level cooperative. They were extraordinary, and up into the last minute, legislative leaders, I've got nothing but praise. Privately, I've been singing their praises all up and down the state, and it's good to be able to say that publicly and clarify that. Thank you for that question.
Governor, you disagreed with some of your allies about the use of MCO funding, and that measure is going to the ballot to create a more permanent stream of funding, which is more than what you had wanted to do. Yeah. Are you prepared to oppose that ballot measure?
Well, it's one of the many things that we're considering. Look, I think it reduces our ability to have the kind of flexibility that's required. And I don't say this lightly, and I don't say it lightly, and I don't say it to brag. But it's a deep point of pride. It's one of those rocking chair tests you'll look back in your life. And I'm really proud of the work we've done on healthcare, investments and expansion. I don't know that many states have ever invested across the spectrum as we've invested. I mean, the CalAIM proposal over the next 5 years, the investments as it relates to brain health and physical health, the integration, the 1115, 1332 waivers, the work we're doing to incorporate rent in that respect, the work we did to become the first state in the country to get Medicaid waiver, to allow people exiting CDCR to get onto Medi-Cal, the work we've done to expand Medi-Cal regardless of your pre-existing condition, ability to pay, regardless of your immigration status, the work we're doing on mental health, next level, not just mental health as it relates to the forms under Proposition 1, the work we've done 0 to 26 to focus on prevention and screening and identify early needs, workforce investments, the work I've done to establish a framework of support under Proposition 56 to provide backfills. I can go on. I can go on. My point is, it's a point of pride. So this is a coalition I respect, I admire, I've long supported. They've supported these efforts, but this initiative hamstrings our ability to have the kind of flexibility that's required at the moment we're living in. And God forbid we wake up after November 5th in a different moment with less flexibility. And we will be locked in on the basis of facts that are not in evidence. Flexibility is important. So that's my position on it. I haven't come out publicly against it, but I'm implying a point of view. Perhaps you can read between those many, many lines.
I heard it. My next question is, in September, you said in an interview with Chuck Todd that you would not oppose or run against Kamala Harris in a presidential campaign.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you still feel that way.
Of course, yes.
Hi, Governor. Nicole Nixon, Sacramento Bee. You have obviously been very vocal of your support of President Biden staying in the race. Democrats in swing districts, or some Democrats in swing districts, calling for him to drop out. Nancy Pelosi this morning raising questions. You know her. Would she have said that if she didn't have legitimate concerns?
Yeah, I legitimately didn't hear the context, but I did hear of it when I walked in, and my staff said, "Did you hear what Nancy Pelosi said?" And they provided me a little out of context remarks. So I don't honestly have much to say about that. And even what I understood her to say is unsurprising in that respect, meaning it is obviously a decision of the President of the United States. But look, moreover, I had the privilege of being, missed my kids this weekend. A lot of folks are having barbecues, and I was spending time with folks having barbecues over the weekend in a lot of parts of our country. And there were record crowds, unprecedented crowds of support for the President of the United States. I think I've had 100 media outlets asking the same question, and I think I've amply answered my support for the President, and the support I saw on the ground was demonstrable. And that's where I am, and that's where I stand. And the President stood firm supporting NATO last night, in contrast to President Trump, who said he didn't even know what NATO was. That's how unserious Donald Trump is. Said, I didn't even know what it was when I first ran for president. Contrast that with the steadfast support of President Biden in his remarks last night on the 75th anniversary in the masterclass of managing our alliances. NATO's never been stronger, and NATO's never been bigger. The contrast is profound, and so that's what I'm focused on supporting this campaign, this candidate, this man of character, decency, and honor, and contrast that to the darkness that is Donald Trump.
Governor, thank you for your time. Steve Clark, CBS 13. As you've noted, a lot going on. In the last couple of weeks, we had the end of the legislative session. We had the alternative Prop 47 reform bill that was being discussed. We have the wildfires. We have the Emergency Operations Center here opening up. We also have the debate between Biden and Trump that you went to. We have the campaigning on the East Coast for 5 days. So if you could just help us understand, what is the balance that you are trying to strike here between
have you got any
for the president and tending to state business?
I think I need a day off. It's been a grind, and it's been a point of deep pride. I care about this country, our democracy. I celebrated like you. Hope we all did. I raised my flag right size up, not upside down, on 4th of July. 248 years, the best of Greek democracy, the Roman Republic, popular sovereignty, checks and balances. And I can assure you, founding fathers didn't live and die to see us on the sidelines at this critical time in our country. So the balance is, I'm all in for the American people. I'm all in for the largest state in our union, 40 million strong, Democrats, Republicans, independents, but that have enjoyed democracy, that have enjoyed freedom, that have enjoyed liberties. And I have a responsibility to meet this moment. And I felt responsibility to miss my family on 4th of July and to be there for this country, for our promise and what we're promoting. So there's no balance. I'm all in, working day in, day out, night and day, Saturday, Sunday. There's no days off. All in, committed to the state, our nation, and the world we're trying to build.
And the critics would say that perhaps you're distracted by the presidential campaign when it comes to tending to the state business.
No, it's just, could not be more untrue. Everything about this campaign will impact this state disproportionately. We were involved in 122 lawsuits with the Trump administration. Don't you guys remember that? The chaos, the fear, the anxiety, how he played politics in what he referred to at the time as Pleasure California. He was serious. He said, we need to rake the forests. Daylight and darkness, this is a profound and consequential moment. This is all in moment for all of us. This is serious for this state. No state has more to lose in this context than the greatest state in our nation, the tentpole of the American economy, where 16% of the American jobs came from just last month, the 5th largest economy in the world. No state has more to lose in this context. Women, millions and millions of women, they'll be denied basic freedoms and access. You saw an OBGYN in Louisiana said, "I'll never unsee what I saw." She said, "I saw a young girl, 13 years old, who was raped, that was forced to bring to term her baby, clutching a teddy bear." That's the world we're living in under Donald Trump. That's the world he's promoting. This is a consequential moment for all Californians and all Americans. Forgive me, but this is a very intense thing for me. And so when I say I'm all in, I'm all in. Thank you.
Hi, Governor. Thank you. Hearing you say that you're all in, but the New York Times this morning had an op-ed written by George Clooney, one of the president's biggest fundraisers and allies, calling you out by name among other Democratic leaders to settle on a new candidate to figure out what it will take to go into the convention united. Can you please respond?
I have not read this op-ed this morning. I was frankly focused on the nuances and details of the procurement for what is it, the wildfire suppression underbelly on the C-130s. So I haven't had a chance to read it. Look, a lot of people expressing their opinion, and I respect people actively participating in our democracy by expressing themselves. But I don't have any comment as it relates to George, who I've known for years and years, admire and respect. And he's been an incredible supporter of Democratic causes, Democratic candidates for years and years and years. I'll take a look, and perhaps I'll have more to say after I read the op-ed. Thank you.
Governor, in November, California voters will decide whether to reform Prop 47. How will you use your powerful voice to encourage them?
Well, I don't think they're reforming Prop 47. They're bringing us back to the darker drug policy age on possession. They're asking the taxpayers to invest billions and billions of dollars we don't have without identifying any funding source. It's under the guise of 47, but it doesn't even include the felony threshold. Wasn't that the principal mantra of most of your reporting for the last 2 years? Go back to your own reports. The issue wasn't the issue the threshold? California voters in 2014 rolled back the thresholds to $950. They don't even include it in their reform. What more evidence do you need that this is not what they portended to be, or at least suggested to be? So I just hope people take a good look, read it. I've read it. I will not be supporting it. I don't think it's good public policy. I'll be supporting the bills that we're working with the legislature to actually address the issue and continue the work we've been doing to invest in vertical prosecutions and investigations and investing in technology in counties and communities, sheriff's offices, DA's offices, all throughout the state of California. I was down in Orange County a few weeks ago, and I think we provided over $2 million for the Orange County DA's office on retail theft. They've never had resources from the state, ever, in their history, to invest in addressing the real issues of retail theft. Proposition 36 is not about those issues. It's about another agenda altogether.
Hi, Governor. Andrew Oxford from Bloomberg. You've talked today about the big picture here of climate change. Your administration is proposing a delay in implementing SB 253. Can you talk about why, the reason for the delay, or what you're hoping to do?
Offline, let's talk a little bit more about the work that we're doing with California Air Resources Board as it relates to the details of that bill. As you know from my signing statement last year, this nation-leading effort to advance more transparency in this space, we indicated the need to work on language, and that's exactly the process that is unfolding in real time, and it's a process that continues.
Languages and changes to the law, or languages and regulations?
Well, I'd encourage you going back specifically to my signing message. And we're in that process of implementing what I stated in that signing message.
Hi, Governor. Alexei Kosek from CalMatters. Earlier this year, at your administration's urging, prisons were removed from a proposal to create new indoor heat rules for workers in California. This past weekend, we saw an inmate die from heat issues at a prison in Chowchilla. Do you stand by the belief that it's too expensive for California to implement new heat safety rules for prisons, and what is your administration doing to deal with the clear dangers to prison inmates and workers
I'm going to act specifically on that incident, which I am aware of. I'm getting a full briefing tomorrow from my team in CDCR. There's a number of other issues we'll be addressing, but substantively to understand the details of this, and we'll be able to brief that out after I get that briefing.
So why did you and your administration believe it's too expensive?
That's why we've organized the meeting with my team. We're going to have more to say on that specific topic. I'd rather get the briefing fully so you'll have a deeper understanding of the administration's approach, where the director of CDCR is on this, the nuances, the specificity. I want to understand this more fully as well, and what the alternatives are and the work that they're doing and what they were promoting and what they were pledging to do. And I'm going to stress test all of that. We're going to have more information to provide you. With that, we thank you all for staying fully on topic today. Grateful, though, moreover, that we are here and at this remarkable site. And I just want to, again, thank all of you, but moreover, all of the men and women in uniform you see behind us for their extraordinary work. This is a tall task. Summers are tough. July, August, September. You didn't ask me about energy reliability. We can do that another time. All of these things are front and center, topical, and all of them are feeling stress under this extraordinary moment we're living in as it relates to these extreme heat events. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Thank you all.